Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name's Sarah Howe. I am the Global Head of Talent Acquisition at Consensus. Consensus is a Web3 blockchain company focusing on the Ethereum blockchain, more famously known for our product MetaMask and also Infura. I've been in the recruitment industry for over 18 years, originally from Australia, and have been living in the United States for the past 10 years. That's me.
Hi, I'm Nelly. I'm head of adoption at IXEC. So IXEC is one of the OGs in the space. We launched an ICO in 2017 to build a decentralized marketplace for computing resources. And well, thank you for the invitation. In IXEC, adoption is we handle everything related to developer relations, developer grants, events, online, offline, marketing Web 2, marketing Web 3, and all our community.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Geraldine. I'm a senior product manager at Fleet Collective, which is a collective of freelancers of Web3. And so we are working with Web3 agencies and also Web2 companies that want to step in Web3. We represent more than 40 different, I would say, roles. And yeah, we aim to be the biggest community of freelancers of Web3. And we are based in France, but we also have, I would say, 80% French and 20% people all over the world. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Sounds exciting. So let's start this discussion with a few facts and key numbers. I think it's important to have a factual vision of the situation. So in EU, believe it or not, but only 17 female graduates choose to work in the tech industry, only 17%. And regarding fundraising, for instance, which is a key issue in the tech industry, of course, in 2021, according to a BCG study, male founders raise on average 1.6 times more funds than female founders, which is 60% more, which is quite a lot. And another key figures that goes into this sense as well is that there is not a single female founders team in 2022 that has raised more than $50 million. So this is crazy. And the fun fact about this is that this situation, the gender representation, the female representation in the tech industry was actually better before today. So we think it is going better, but actually this is the contrary. For instance, in France, in the 80s, so only 40 years from now, 35% of women worked in the computer science industry. And why did it get worse as today? This is because the tech industry, the software industry, become a strategic issue for companies, for governments, and this became a male-dominated industry, unfortunately. So yeah, this is really sad. But today we are going to discuss what is the situation in Web3, how can we make things better, why is it critical to empower women in Web3, and what are the current solutions. So let's start with. So we just started with the micro overview of the sector, but let's hear from your feedbacks from the field. What's your vision on the field of this situation? Have you seen any gender inequalities, salary inequalities, discrimination, this kind of thing? What's your practical view of this issue? Sarah, would you like to start?
Yeah, it is disappointing, and it is an issue, and I think companies do have a responsibility to address that, holistically, to better the industry in general. I've certainly myself seen salary discrepancies, for sure, women getting paid much, much less than men. And what we've done at Consensus is really sort of brought in specific career pathing and having sort of salary ranges very clearly disclosed about that, and so that we can all see that we're, getting fairly paid. It's an ongoing work, and I think also traditionally the industry, was rife with sexism, and certainly sort of discrimination towards women. And I think we are putting in place a lot of changes around that as companies, and certainly at Consensus we have many policies around this, and a lot of training and anti-harassment training and unconscious bias training, and how do we, more productively engage with each other as team members versus just sort of, marginalizing women further. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, so in my experience, when I entered the space, I think one of the challenges that I encountered was the lack of understanding of the technology by decision makers. So back in 2017, I launched the first foundation in France to help people understand blockchain technology for free, and especially for women. And I presented this project to the head of innovation at some city here in France. And what he said, it was, well, we cannot help you because I was just asking, I needed classrooms to deliver the free workshop because I was using all my savings for the foundation. Like I cannot also pay for the classroom. So this guy said, well, we cannot help you, and I don't see the point of teaching people something that is so complicated. And that, it was like, I quit my job to launch this foundation to really help people understand, And I know that if this guy truly knew the profound impact that blockchain can have in the way we organize ourselves, we create, we transfer value, he wouldn't have said that. And also I saw the stereotype, 50 years, 60 years old, this girl, like, what are you gonna come here and teach me? But the good thing is that some lady heard that conversation in the same department, and this lady was in charge of gender equality and things like that, and she put me in contact with the fintech accelerator at a French bank, and we started, talking, and they support my foundation. And this lady, she had no idea of technology or whatever. She wasn't, in the space, but she was open, to hear what I had to say, and my initiative to help people through education and technology. And in the end, I learned how to pick my battles, and I think, like, okay, well, the private sector, it's going to have more of a chance of succeeding with this initiative. In the end, we got the support from Google and this French bank, but it was really hard luck to the understanding and stereotypes.
Thanks for this testimony. And what's your practical view on the field of this situation? Do you, in your daily job in Fleet Collective, do you see any salary discrepancies or other inequalities?
So I'm also quite new in Web3 industry, but I would say I see a lot of things I've seen in Web2, big groups, company in France that are also very similar in the Web3, because usually people are already working in digital goes into this new industry. So I'm a freelancer, as I said, for 3 years now. I would say I could see some maybe, so we work in, mainly I work in daily rates, and this could be the inequality I could see. Maybe women tends to sell themselves a bit less. I don't have the exact percentage, but I know for me, I speak for me as well, I tend to do that, and when I speak to my circle of women, this is also what I see. And at Philip Collective, we are building. We are quite new as well. We have 1 year and a half as well. Is the first experience I joined. And we are actually building, like what we want to do is selling also like package to agency and make it the more transparent and equal, like gender equal on the daily rates, etc. And just based on the experience. And even if some women tends to sell them less, we would say, you know, actually these are the rates that is equal to your experience. So we are currently building that, and yeah, this is the work we do right now. Yeah.
Amazing. So yeah, it's interesting to see how you can have a concrete leverage when you're helping freelancers to get a job. So it's really interesting. Okay, so thanks for your practical vision of this topic. Now, if we want to really bring value through this panel and try to find solution, we have to first understand the causes of this situation. So what are the causes for you? Is it because of stereotypes? Is it because of the way we raise boys and girls? Is it because of sexism in this space? What are the main causes for you?
I think it's a combination of all of those things that you mentioned there. I think, you know, there has been stereotypes. I think, you know, traditionally it is the role of the woman to be at home or to have the family and to raise the children. And so I think all of those things do factor into where we're at now. And we've also seen the research around that. Women typically, you know, do have a harder time negotiating those higher salaries, whereas in comparison to men, that they will go in and they'll say it's 50,000 more or it's 20,000 more, and they have no issue doing that. Whereas, you know, gendered, we do as women, and we find that very difficult. So I think that sort of just again perpetuates those issues, and we're further behind the, you know, the 8 ball every time we go for a new job because we're not asking those questions, we're not being aggressive, and I think, you know, we have been putting in place, as I said, you know, earlier, with the salary banding, and we pay to the 75th percentile or above in those salary bandings specifically to address these issues that we've been facing. But yeah, that's what I would say on that.
I think also it's a combination of different factors, but I think one of the main roots of the problem is that as women, we don't feel identified with other people in the sector, so it's really hard. For example, when I was a kid, I knew lawyers, doctors, but I didn't know like engineers or programmers, and so today trying to enter to a space where you cannot relate to is really hard. And also today it's going way better than before. Like, for example, I remember in my company, when I started doing consulting for them, there was just one woman in the whole company, and I asked the question, like, hey, to the CEO, why there's so like the amount of men is just like, how could you explain that? And then he said, like, yeah, we want to hire more women, but they just don't apply to. And then I realized that, the thing is, like, they were not knocking in the right doors to find a female talent, you know, because if people, they cannot identify with, when you go and see, you know, it's a company full of men, you're like, oh, okay. You know, but also what we started doing to fight that is try to find partners that could help us find more female talent. For example, we join some events. There's this network in the US. It's called Women in Tech. One event, and we have like more than 200 applications for women. You know, like, yeah, this is the way to go. But unless you have women in decision making positions, these ideas, you know, it's going to be hard to have them, you know, outside of the box. So I think that is really important to have women in decision making positions, so you can start introducing all these things that can change the game.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. For me, I would say awareness and education is super important. It starts very young as well, like Web2, Web3, same. When, I don't know the other system, but in France, when you get out of high school, you barely know what you want to do as a job, and you tend, parents tend to, I would say, encourage the girls to go into like more the digital paths. I think it's only 30% of the girls are encouraged to go towards that, whereas for the boys it's more 60%. And this is where you start to educate yourself about also digital, and then go into these more maybe technical roles. And if we bring more awareness and education to those younger people, we also will close the gap. So we need to encourage that. And also, as Nelly said, the decision-making process is super important. And for the moment, we have very few female represented, that are very leaders. And I'm talking about founders, I'm talking also about investors, managers, etc. in the ecosystem. And this is what we need to encourage. Now we see more and more women into executive role, but we need really those leaders to support, and we need as well the male to advocate for that and really influence, I would say, influence also the more female. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think now we have a pretty clear vision of the different roots of this issue. And maybe just to add the specificities on the freelance side, I've seen yesterday an interesting study showing that as freelances are quite prevalent in the tech industry, and while women are often still today, unfortunately, managing the house and the children and so on, they rather would seek more permanent and stable jobs rather than freelances, and that could also explain why there are less women in the tech sectors, why there are a lot of freelances contracts. Do you agree with this? It is something that you agree?
I would say I don't have children, so it's also more easy for me to be a freelancer, because even if I do a bit less money in the month, I'm not putting at risk my family. And so when you are younger, I think that you also take less risk in that, but I guess the more you grow up, the more it's also, and I grow up, I mean like growing up a family, the more it's difficult also to take risk at that, but I will really encourage going towards that. Although for the moment I haven't seen a big difference between the freelancer and the permanent jobs into Web3. I see it more into Web2. I don't know so much about the Web3. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Interesting. And yeah, before discussing the potential solutions to this issue, how can we convince founders and employers that this is an important issue? You know, if you are male founders, you are in the tech industry, almost every company has 60% male in the company. You think it's normal. You don't seem like there is a big inequalities or issues in your company. How would you convince a founder or an employer that this is a critical issue and they should take action to change this?
Many of us have probably seen there's so many studies out there now that really do report back on the innovation and the more diverse thoughts and ideas and people that we have in the room, the better our products are. And the more successful our companies are, and the more accessible they are. You know, we all each bring unique perspectives, and I'm not just saying just women. You know, it's everybody, and it's all of us having those really unique kind of viewpoints and experiences and backgrounds, and bringing those into the product or to the work, and that makes it more successful. It makes it more accessible, it makes it more equitable. And so I think it's super important that we're highlighting these issues all the time to founders and to companies that do have lower rates of women. Because as we all know, the companies that do have that diversity, they outperform. And equally too, you know, if you're working with clients, you know, they want to see diversity. They may not necessarily, if there's, you know, females in their company, want to see all men in the room, you know, that you're working for. So I think it's super important that we continue discussing it. And I think it's equally important not just as women to be discussing this, but I think, you know, the men in the room as well, you know, being allies, helping lift. If we lift each other up, we all rise. And I think that's kind of what makes it, you know, successful and more enjoyable. You know, we all have to work. Well, most of us have to work. It might as well be enjoyable, and we might as well be doing our best work. So, yeah.
Well, I think that's things that we can do. Well, after I started working in my company, you know, the people, the director was asking me, like, what can we do? And I was, you know, like, well, it's not rocket science. You know, women, they need recognition, education, funding, jobs, you know, and this is really, really easy to do. You know, for example, we started for EAT-CC and EAT Global, we started funding female builders to come to Europe and build and learn and flourish in the space. And we need more initiatives like this. We started with Herdao France and also with Herdao Latam, and we're also partnering with WACME, an initiative from Crypto Connexion, Herdao Latam, and Unstoppable Domains to onboard 5 million Latinas into Web3 by 2030. So there's so many things that you can do. You don't have to start anything from zero. There's so many initiatives out there, but somebody needs to address this and push this, because by themselves, decision makers, they are not familiar to this problem, you know, but unless you are someone in the company in a decision-making position, pushing all these initiatives. Yeah, there's so many things to do and so many things in the space. And I think now I've seen such a great difference in the openness and the opportunities out there. Because back in 2017, oh my, yeah, there was not, it was not it was not as open as it is right now.
Yeah, I would say if we want to build a decentralized world, it's super important to bring everyone in, and we can't left anyone behind. And so we are talking about women, but it also works with different things. And there are already great communities. Like I went to a side event this week that was super interesting about as well, like women artists. It was at a gallery in Bastille. And it's great actually to see these those positive vibes, like to really encourage the women to go into communities. For me, it really helped as well to join Fleet Collective, because as a freelancer, you usually work alone, and I mean, you feel. I also work remote. I live in Italy, in Rome, and there are very few people involved in Web3. So it's great to feel part of the community and know that there is someone that is just a step forward. And actually what also makes me enter is, we didn't talk about the role model, but it's very, very important for women to also see that, and not just the women in the leadership, if, you know, like, I don't want to, if you're very further, but also to see someone that is, yeah, just a step further. And that helps you to see where you want to go. And yeah, I have a friend that was just there, and that helped me out, give me confidence, because I had a very strong imposter syndrome, as I guess a lot of, I won't say only women, I know male also have that, but that's prevent us from doing something. So communities and role model really help you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think we have covered the two main reason why this is key to change this. First, this is a social justice issue, right? Of course, this is the most obvious. and especially because the tech industry is growing very fast. On average, the salaries are higher, and especially in the Web3, I think if we are here, this is because we believe this is going to change a lot of industry. So this is going to bring a lot of growth in the country and in the economy in general. And if we exclude women from this, we exclude them from a lot of opportunities. But this is also very interesting that you highlighted that it is also an economic cost to not include women in the company, because studies show that the more you have diversity in your company and in your employees, the more diversity you have in the project and service that you are building, and the more innovative you can be and the more effective you can be. And if we zoom out and if we go on a macro perspective, there is a European Commission study showing that if we have gender parity in the tech industry, we would raise the EU GDP from 10%, which is huge. And just because there are a number of reasons, but as the salaries are higher in the tech industry, if women have higher raises, they spend more money, and the economy just grow. There is less unemployment, so the states have less charges, and so from a social justice status and a practical economical point of view, this is just rational and fair to have more equality in the tech industry. So this is very interesting. And yeah, so now just discussing how we can solve this issue. I know we have already discussed a few implementation and steps that you have implemented in your companies, but could you elaborate a little bit more on these, the different programs you can have, and in general, the solutions you can see to solve this issue?
We certainly have a long way to go when it comes to sort of, gender and diversity in our industry, but I think I'm inspired in Web3, and I've been in the space for 5.5 years now, and even more recently, seeing just an explosion of really women-focused sort of organizations that are coming out. We've got Crypto Chicks, Black Women Blockchain Council, all these wonderful She-Fi, all these wonderful, wonderful organizations that have come into the space and are there and offering very low cost or free education, for women to come in and to make that transition into the Web3 space. So I'm inspired, and I'm cautiously optimistic about the future. It's certainly far more inspiring than my time in Web 2. So I think we're really well positioned. In addition to that, we have access to the communities and the values underpinning Web 3 are really around welcoming and really sort of engaging in those communities. DAOs, of course, you can easily access those. So I think there are so many different sort of inlets into the Web 3 space, not just for women, but certainly many geared towards women, which is wonderful to see. So I think as long as we continue to sort of welcome those people from sort of very diverse backgrounds into the industry and setting them up for success. And, when people do land into Web3 companies, I'm very fortunate, Consensus is a larger organization, so we, of course, can create broader, larger programs. But, we have women's mentorship programs, we have employee resource groups of all sort of descriptions, women's, not just women, but sort of Black people at Consensus is another one as well as Asians at Consensus. So these sorts of groups really sort of elevate that conversation and help give that sense of belonging to the people. So I think, companies, there's small things that we can be doing in order to make people feel as though they belong and that they have a voice. And I think really, it does come back to really listening and to understanding your organization and what's going on there, and really sort of addressing any of that feedback that comes through as best as you possibly can. Now, again, it doesn't have to be a huge $1 million sort of implementation of a program or anything like that. It could be something as simple as allowing people to do a DAO day, for example, which we run every month, and people can participate in all sorts of different DAOs. That's very low cost for us to do that. The other thing we do is coffee meetings with the executives. So, we have a 30-minute Zoom call, we call it coffee chat, and it gives everybody sort of access to the senior leaders in the organization. So, there are many, many different initiatives that you can run. I think you've just got to put the effort behind it, and you've just got to really care about that. And I think, certainly found a great place at Consensus, because I believe we do really care about that, and we are elevating these conversations and addressing them.
Well, I totally agree with you. We're a long way to go for to achieve gender equity, but I think also something very important is when trying to attract female talent, we sometimes think of external talent, but always some that we lack sometimes is like identify the existing talent that you have in your company that you can push and you can help them to have a better position, or learn a new job or things like that. So I think it's also something very important how to retain talent in your company, and then how to make them succeed. Also, I love personally mentorship programs. It doesn't need to be women to women, or that is very, very important that have this one-on-one connection with somebody that is like way ahead than you are, and these mentorship programs, they work really good. I was, for example, in France, they have this CIFCIS. It's the Circle of Women in Cybersecurity. I was part of their foundation for many years, and they have this mentorship, and they help them with education, one-on-ones, event funding. It was really, really, I really saw how women, they flourish in an industry that it was so, that you cannot really relate to. And one of the things that they discovered is when talking to mentors, it was that they all thought that for being in cybersecurity, you needed to have a technical background. But there's so many other jobs that you can have, but unless you talk to someone that is in the industry, you don't realize this. And I think this is very, very important to the stereotype of, being in tech. It's, the stereotype that we have of programmers and things like that, that today there's so many things that you can do, and then you can have a very profound impact in an industry, even if you're not a technical profile. For example, I take Camila Russo. I personally identify with her because, well, she's Latina, and she created this book called The Infinite Machine. I totally recommend you. It was like a novel, seriously. I learned so many things. It was so nice listening to her, and then I would see her progressing in her career, and I would totally relate to her. And then something that makes me very inspired, listen to her story, and then also sharing my story, because I'm from Mexico, and in Mexico my grandmother didn't know how to read or write, and thanks to education and inclusion, today I'm helping people understand blockchain in my third language in Europe. And that's something that so many people can relate to, and I think this is the power of sharing your story.
So for the initiative that we are running at Fleet Collective, we want to avoid also the discrimination. So when we send also talents working with Web3 agencies, etc., when we place the talents, and we are working on to actually assess the skills on chain, so hard skills and soft skills, to eliminate all the discrimination. So we are with the core team, we are working on that. So that's the first, I would say, things that we have at Fleet. The second, I was talking about the role model, and it relates to me because the two founders are also women. So that helps a lot to attract the talents. We are proud to say that we are not gender equity, but we are 30% of women in the collective, and we want to attract even more also in other roles. We have tech, I would say, women working in a technical role, like developers and data analysts, etc., but also non-tech, as I am, product manager. And yeah, we keep working on that, and I think it's also great to attract non-tech profile working into the ecosystem, because so far it has been a bit intimidating to join the ecosystem, and seeing also non-tech people working in products, working in design, working in marketing. We need to build the ecosystem with those roles. So we are proud also to say that in the collective we represent also all those different roles, and yeah, it's just a start. So
amazing. So we have 5 minutes left. Is there anything you would like to add to a message to address to women or to male founders that you would like to encourage to take action, or anything just to complement previous things you have said?
Watch out, boys, the women are coming. No, I'm kidding. I think we need to do all of this work together as one united Web3 community. And as I said earlier, I'm very inspired by the work I'm already seeing. And I just continue to be inspired. I really think we're onto something here. And I think we should keep going. And we will get there.
Well, for the women out there debating whether if they should be in tech or not, the answer is yes, you should do it. And you shouldn't be scared of not knowing something, or launching in a place that you don't feel identified with. Tech is so cool. You're going to discover so many opportunities that before was not possible. So my one advice is do it, even if you're scared about it. It doesn't matter what, just do it. Say yes, and then you will figure it out.
And for me, that would be share your story, because even if you are new, I'm sure there is someone that is even newer than you, and there is at least one woman that needs to hear your story. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think this is a well-deserved round of applause. This was very inspiring. Thank you so much for your advice, and I hope you have learned something, and we'll start to act for empowering women in Web3 in the future. Thank you so much.